My name is Chris Watts. I'm doing my communication speech for Brenda Armentrout, and welcome to Broomfield, Colorado. About 70 degrees, and it's awesome outside, so welcome.
Now to the chilling murder confession of a father in Colorado. The 33-year-old admitting to killing his pregnant wife and their 2 children.
2 questions weigh heavy. What happened and why?
They were, like the couple. They were affectionate and they were happy.
A family that seemed perfect. They celebrated birthdays, they traveled, they were expecting a 3rd child.
They had way too much ahead of them, especially the kids.
So bad. I want those kids back so bad.
And then
this is absolutely the worst possible outcome.
the father who pleaded for his family hours earlier was in handcuffs.
It's very sad. Big breaking news this morning in Frederick. CBS 4 has learned the pregnant mother and her two daughters, missing since Monday, are believed by detectives to be dead. They've told her family her husband has confessed to killing them. Tori Mason's live outside the family's nice-looking home in Frederick, a place of great sadness this morning. Tori?
This is such a somber and sad morning here in this area, Alan. This is not the outcome any of us wanted. Outside the home, there's been this growing memorial. People have been coming by all morning, leaving teddy bears, stuffed animals. There's a cross. They even come by and lit some candles. Now, this morning, we know that Shan Ann's husband, Chris, is facing charges for the deaths of his wife and their 2 daughters. Now the question remains, where are their bodies? Chris Watts has been booked into the Weld County Jail on 6 charges. 3 counts of first-degree murder and 3 counts of tampering with evidence. He's currently being held without bond. Police have been looking for Shan Ann and her 2 daughters, 4-year-old Bella and 3-year-old Celeste, since they were reported missing Monday. One of Shan Ann's friends posted on Facebook saying she left her phone, purse, car seats, and her children's medicine at home, which was completely unlike her. The FBI and CBI, along with Frederick Police, have been working tirelessly to find this young mother and her children. But late last night, CBS 4 confirmed the family was told that Shan Ann's husband, Chris Watts, admitted to killing them. The family was also told he would lead investigators to their bodies. After that, investigators spent the night at their home removing evidence. In a statement, a family spokesperson said, quote, "We are deeply saddened over the senseless, inhumane murder of their beloved daughter and sister, Shan Ann, her unborn child, and her beautiful daughters, Bella and Celeste. Please allow the family and those close to mourn their passing in private. We wish to remember Shan Ann, Bella, and Celeste and celebrate their short-lived life in peace and quiet." Now, right now, we're still unsure if the husband actually followed through and told police where their bodies are, or we're unsure if they've even located them at this point. We're still hoping to get some more information on that. Police are going to update us later this morning around 10:30.
Hey everybody, I just wanted to let you know I'm heading out to the news conference, leaving Denver here in just a few minutes. This is going to be the news conference in Frederick. We believe we're going to learn some more information, but I can tell you from previous experience, we're not going to get all of our questions answered, simply because there's obviously going to be a murder case that's going to go forward here in the legal system. But it's going to take a while to get there. We're expecting it's going to start at about 10:30, and so we're going to stream that live, by the way, if you want to watch on Facebook or on our website, thedenverchannel.com, and I'll keep you updated on my social media sites as well.
Good morning. My name is Sergeant Ian Albert. The Frederick Police Department received a missing person call just before 2 p.m. on Monday, August 23, 2018. Our agency launched an investigation conducting interviews, neighborhood canvasses, in an effort to locate Shan and her 2 girls, Bella and Celeste.
The days continue to pass.
Pray for the best.
The Monday report turned into a Tuesday search.
This street was lined with police officers.
Is now Wednesday's worry.
I'm a worrywart for those babies.
A pregnant mother, Shan Watts, and her daughter, 3 and 4 years old, are all still missing.
But there is no reason to believe that the public is at risk.
Police now talking for the first time since the investigation started.
Our agency has been conducting canvasses of the surrounding areas of the Wyndham Hill subdivision where Saratoga Trail is located. Our officers will be conducting checkpoints later in the day as well too, where we will be handing out flyers to see if anyone has any information.
Neighbors,
very concerning,
continue to sit, watch, and wait.
To be honest, I lost a lot of sleep over it last night.
Some even try to piece this puzzle together.
They seem like very quiet people.
What they saw,
No, really, I haven't.
or even heard.
Didn't see anything.
To see if there are any clues to explain why these three family members would just vanish.
Something just doesn't add up to me.
Didn't come home last night with the kids.
We also contacted the FBI and the CBI to assist in this case on Tuesday afternoon. Frederick PD conducted additional canvasses where flyers featuring Shanann, Celeste, and Bella were distributed throughout the community.
And I want them here.
Tonight, the search for a missing pregnant woman and her two daughters will soon enter its third day. Frederick police offered no new information today.
CBS 4's Jeff Todd has the newest information from Frederick tonight. Jeff, a relative of Shanann Watts tells you the family is still hopeful.
Jim, the family is putting a lot of trust into the Frederick Police Department. Earlier tonight, officers were handing out this flyer to neighbors. The family told us they know that time is vital.
It's horrific right now what the family is going through.
These pictures were taken just a few days ago when the extended family was together.
Shanann was down in North Carolina with her parents last week, had a beautiful time with Bella and with Celeste.
But no one has seen Shanann, Bella, or Celeste since Monday morning.
Oh, it's very unsettling, especially the fact that she loved her two little girls so much and she had a third one on the way. Very unsettling.
Frederick police say they are not looking for a car, and Shanann leaving unannounced and without contacting anyone else is unusual behavior. Investigators haven't released any other details publicly, but the family is working with police.
Everything that the authorities have is got to be tight-lipped. In the long run, when we do get her home, we want to make sure all the ducks are in a row.
Relatives say they don't suspect foul play and believe the pregnant mother and her two daughters will be found safe.
We speak of Shanann in the present. To us, she is. When you look at her face, she is alive. Same with Bella and same with Celeste.
The family reached out with us because they said they really need help getting Shanann's parents from North Carolina out here to Colorado to help in the search. We've got information on cbsdenver.com for how you can help out fund that project.
Finally, devastating news to report on our top story. The missing mother and her two little girls in Frederick. CBS 4 has just confirmed that Shanann Watts' husband, Chris, has confessed to killing all three of them and apparently agreed to lead investigators to the remains.
Finally, in the late hours of Wednesday evening, the husband, Chris Watts, was taken into custody and was transported to the Weld County Jail just after 11:30 p.m. last night. He is currently scheduled for a bond hearing later today.
It scares the living crap out of me right now.
I would just like to say our hearts and our prayers go out to the families of this tragedy.
I mean, my heart's racing a mile a minute. It's
Good morning. Thank you for being here. My name is Michael Rourke. I'm the Weld County District Attorney. And I hope that you all understand this investigation is still ongoing. We are at the very preliminary stages of this investigation process and the procedure that's going to occur from this point forward. After the suspect was arrested last night, this case has been formally referred to my office for determination of the appropriate formal charges that will be filed against the suspect.
I mean, everybody's going to have their own opinion on anything like this.
As Sergeant Albert indicated, the suspect has a bond hearing this afternoon at 2:30 in Division 5 at the Weld County Courthouse. Following that, we will be given a deadline by which we need to file formal charges. That will be sometime Monday afternoon, and we will make a determination on charges between now and then.
Hi, I'm John Camper, Director of the Colorado Bureau of Investigation. We join with Chief Norris, the Frederick PD, and really the entire town of Frederick in expressing our sorrow for the loss of Shanann Watts, Bella, and Celeste. This is absolutely the worst possible outcome that any of us could imagine. And I think our hearts are broken for the town of Frederick as much as anybody's. As you probably know, the Colorado Bureau of Investigation is primarily a by-request agency, and the Frederick PD did reach out to us. We were honored to assist. The cooperation that occurred and the collaboration that occurred in this case was textbook. The Frederick PD has just been outstanding to work with, and an extremely impressive job of investigating this case, along with the resources of the FBI and the collaboration with CBI has been outstanding. And I also might add that the collaboration and cooperation by Anadarko, which, as you know, is somewhat involved in this as well, has also been outstanding. They've been nothing but cooperative in helping us with this investigation as well. So at this point, we have been able to recover a body that we're quite certain is Shanann Watts' body. We have strong reason to believe that we know where the bodies of the children are, and recovery efforts are in process on that. We have an awful lot of people that we still need to talk to. As you can imagine, in an investigation like this, it's complex. We talk to anyone and everyone that, no matter how loosely related to this they might be, and so we've got a lot of folks that we need to talk to. In terms of, I think it's safe to say that in terms of any danger to the community or anything like that, we're not concerned about that at all. And
and it's been earth-shattering.
In the last few days, it's earth-shattering right now. It's like my world's been turned upside down.
Our small department, 20 plus officers, we've been working around the clock on this, and it's something that we've been working with the community, with the command staff, with the town of Frederick themselves, obviously the media, you find people, and it's been nonstop. And I don't want to say there's no end in sight, but it's certainly ongoing.
The affidavit in support of warrantless arrest was sealed last night at our request by a district court judge. We did so that we could finish up a few of the investigative steps. My anticipation is that on or about Monday, when we make a filing decision, my hope will be that we can ask the court to unseal that information and make it a public record at that point in time.
An outpouring of grief in the community of Frederick, where police arrest a father for killing his pregnant wife and their 2 daughters. I'm Ellen Janae. Christopher Watts is now facing 3 charges of murder and the disappearance of his family. Investigators say he confessed to those murders. Our Jamie Leary is at the family home right now, where neighbors and friends are honoring Shanann Watts and the girls. But let's start with Dylan Thomas today, who has details on the arrest and the search still for bodies. Dylan?
Alan, after days of searching and hoping for the best possible outcome, yesterday, Chris Watts, the father and husband of those missing, was arrested on suspicion of murder. And shortly after, a body believed to be that of Shanann Watts was located nearby. Today, in a joint media conference with the FBI, CBI, and more, the Frederick Police Department announced Chris Watts was being held in the Weld County Jail on suspicion of 3 counts of first-degree murder and 3 counts of tampering with evidence. Before being arrested, Watts told authorities he was under the impression his pregnant wife left on Monday with their 2 daughters, Bella and Celeste, to visit friends. More than 20 investigators questioned friends and family for days before arresting Watts on suspicion of murder Wednesday afternoon. Sources told CBS 4 Watts later confessed to killing his family, though law enforcement would not confirm that today. What they could confirm was that at least 1 body was found on Anadarko property, the oil and gas company Watts worked for. And right now, investigators continue to search for the bodies of those 2 young girls. A search of court records showed CBS 4 that Shanann and Chris Watts were both summoned to appear in court later on this month. However, we're not exactly sure at this time what that summons was for. In just more than 2 hours, Chris Watts is scheduled to make his first court appearance. Live in Frederick.
Really an incredible amount of grief in this community today, Jamie.
There is a horrible feeling among the neighbors here, though. We've been talking with neighbors off camera, and just to see the pain on their faces has truly been very difficult to see. This is kind of the only way, this memorial here, that people know how to deal with this grief at this point in time. Every few minutes, another neighbor or community member will come by the home to reflect and lay flowers or a teddy bear for the girls. Those 2 girls attended school nearby here. One parent told me that families at the school, as well as the staff, were beside themselves at drop-off this morning. Others coming by the memorial here, we've spoke with them. They said, while they have no connection to the family, a lot of strangers coming by, it's important they show support. One family told me they're very angry, and like many, they're trying to cope. And what's making this very difficult for some of these neighbors, they say they knew the family, they knew the husband, and they thought that he was a nice family man, seemingly. We're working on getting a hold of the family so we can learn a little bit more about the 2 girls and Shanann. We're continuing to follow the story.
Chris and Shanann Watts.
They had the perfect family.
In May, she wrote, "I love this man. He's my rock."
It's not something I could ever.
Chris Watts even did an interview with us about his supposed concern at the time. But over the next 2 days, the investigation started to focus on Chris Watts himself. Last night, there was a lot of activity at the Watts home, with evidence being gathered before Watts himself was arrested and taken to the Weld County Jail around 11:30 p.m. Investigators say this is a heartbreaking ending to a difficult case. Investigators say the body of Shanann Watts was found on the property of Anadarko, a company with which Chris Watts works for. Anadarko is an oil and gas company that does a lot of drilling and fracking in this area. Tom?
Nelson, there's so many questions still, of course, and a lot of heartbreak from Frederick all through Colorado and around the United States. Many people are very interested in this story, very saddened by the result.
Last night was traumatic. Last night was,
9 Wants to Know has learned that 3 years ago, the Watts family did file for bankruptcy, saying they had less than $10 left in their savings accounts. The federal court documents show Chris and Shanann Watts jointly sought Chapter 7 bankruptcy protection. This in June of 2015, after amassing more than $70,000 in debt for unpaid credit cards, medical bills, and student loans. In the filing, the Watts reported that their 2 savings accounts contained just $3.51 in one. There was $6 in the other account. Most of the debt stemming from credit card purchases from such retailers as Furniture Row, Sears, Macy's, American Furniture, and Toys R Us. By August of 2015, a federal judge agreed to discharge most of their debt.
This is a live look at a growing memorial to Shanann Watts and her 2 daughters, Bella and Celeste. Neighbors and friends have been stopping by throughout the day, dropping off mementos, anything from teddy bears, candles, and flowers. Tonight, Frederick police say they found 2 bodies they believe are Bella and Celeste. Officers have been searching property belonging to the oil and gas company Anadarko, where Chris Watts worked before getting fired Wednesday. Shanann's friends say they're going to remember her as someone who loved life, cooking, and her family.
She was made to be a mother. So you could tell just they were her life. She was happy. I mean, she was the happiest, most energetic, loving person. And she loved her kids. And it's just, it's not a fair situation. They didn't deserve it.
Lauren Arnold is a longtime friend. They met in high school in North Carolina. Arnold says she's been looking at pictures, saying it's therapeutic. She's also been talking with Shanann's family and trying to get them to come out here. 4-year-old Bella Watts was supposed to start school last Monday. When she didn't show up, her friends started asking, where is she? 9 News reporter Katie Eastman spoke to a couple of parents facing the task of explaining what happened to their kids.
They know Bella as the girl who liked to pretend she was a princess. They know her as their friend from school who was kind.
We're not sure what to say yet.
They don't know just how cruel the world can be.
This morning, Max thought he saw Bella, and he said, "Oh, I see Bella, there she is." And he was so hard not to cry.
How can they explain to their 4-year-old that Bella, her mom, and sister are gone forever? How? when they themselves can't understand.
I told him that she wouldn't be coming back to school anymore, and that she and her sister and her mom were in heaven, and that they were very happy and they were together. And he had a million questions after that.
Cameron called Bella his favorite girlfriend. Bella called Max her boyfriend too.
Bella kind of had a crush on Max, and he really liked her. She was very sweet.
At 4 years old, they had already learned a little bit about love. The lesson of losing it came too quickly.
He just knows that she's not there for him.
A lot of people want to know if Watts could also face a murder charge for his unborn baby. The simple answer is no. 9 News legal analyst Scott Robinson explains.
Colorado does not recognize an unborn child, literally at any stage, as a person for the purposes of our murder statute. So the easy answer is no. The father of the unborn child cannot be charged with murder relating to the unborn child.
Shanann Watts' brother said on social media last night he just wants to know why this happened. CBS 4 searched court records and found Christopher and Shanann Watts were due in court August 24th. They had both received summonses stemming from a fight over what they owed their HOA. And we learned the couple filed for bankruptcy in 2015. But so far, police have not revealed a motive for the murders. Our Jamie Leary in Frederick tonight. And Jamie, friends and neighbors just in shock.
And I really think the hardest part about this is the lack of closure. People cannot fathom why somebody to do this. Community members coming by here in droves consistently throughout the day, stopping here to reflect. We spoke to one friend of Shannan's. She's also a neighbor. She lives just down the block. She says more than anything right now, she wants these girls home so that they can have a proper burial.
I kept telling myself, no, no, no. He wouldn't do anything to her. My mind just went blank.
Blank because Ashley Bell knows him. She knows Shanann and she knows the girls. They were neighbors and friends. Ashley's daughter played with Cece and Bella all the time.
They didn't deserve any of this. Those two little girls are so innocent and so sweet. And I just don't understand how you could do this to your family.
A question everyone is battling, and the Groy Memorial outside the Watts home is a way for the community to cope.
It bothers me a lot too, you know, as a man, you know. How can a man do that, you know, to a child like that?
Like, I have no inclination to work.
Any inclination. Anne is a hardworking mom, always doing more to advance her career. Ask her, though, in general, what type of friend, wife, and mom Shanann was.
An amazing one. She was always there for everybody.
Remembering them, it seems to be the only thing that makes Ashley smile, especially when it comes to the girls.
Always so crazy. I should say Cece, she was a little ball of fire. The little girl, she had no fear, just like my daughter. And they'd always have so much fun together. And Bella, she was a little bit more of the cautious girl.
As she tries to mentally deal with what happened, she has just one hope for her friend going forward.
Her and those two little girls need to be found and just brought home so that they can be laid to rest the proper way, because they didn't deserve any of this.
And you can really feel the pain. You can see it on the community's face. Right now, they are leaning on each other for support. There is a vigil for the family organized right here in front of their house tomorrow night at 8:30.
These videos posted to Facebook seem to show Chris Watts as a devoted father. The stunning drama beginning Monday around 2 a.m. when Shanann Watts returns from a business trip. Chris later telling a reporter they had a disagreement. He claims he leaves Shanann, Bella, and Celeste for work around 5:15 a.m. Monday. But when Shanann, who was pregnant, fails to show up for a doctor's appointment, around 2 p.m., a concerned friend calls police. By Tuesday at 1 p.m., Chris is on TV pleading for help. Just after 11:30 p.m. Wednesday, Watts is taken into custody and transported to jail, his story reportedly changing to a confession. Family members tell ABC the couple was having marriage troubles, but whatever so completely shattered a seemingly idyllic family life, tonight remains a mystery. Prosecutors say they believe Shanann and the girls were killed inside this house, but other details of the crime are hidden in sealed court documents. But we hope to get a lot more detail on Monday when charges are filed and those documents become public.
Nine wants to know did obtain some court documents that said that Shanann Watts' body was found in a shallow grave. It also suggested earlier documents that the two girls may have been strangled and their bodies placed in oil holding tanks. Now, according to court documents, a DNA expert said that even though the bodies had been in oil filled with crude, or in an oil well filled with crude oil for several days, that DNA would still be present. Now, one of the motions from the defense also asked for testing of Shanann Watts' hands for evidence. Now, Watts' lawyer wanted his own expert to collect DNA evidence in the case, and he also wanted to have a defense expert present for all scientific testing, but a judge denied that request, saying that he cannot tell the prosecutor or the coroner how to do their own investigation. Now, Chris Watts' next court appearance is scheduled for tomorrow morning. However, formal charges are expected to be filed today, Gary, so we don't exactly know what those charges will be, but of course we'll keep an eye out.
Chris Watts will have a bond hearing at 2:30 in Greeley this afternoon. He faces 6 possible charges, 3 for murder and 3 for tampering with a deceased human. Last night, there was a lot of activity at the Watts home, with evidence being gathered before Watts himself was arrested and taken to the Weld County Jail around 11:30 p.m. Investigators say this is a heartbreaking ending to a difficult case.
Reportedly have video from a neighbor's security camera showing Watts back his pickup truck into the garage at 5 a.m. on Monday, just hours after Shanann got home from a business trip, filling the back of that truck with several large bags, including, Bill, a gas can. Bill?
So what happens next, William?
Well, police say they have the confession and now they have the physical evidence. 33-year-old Watts will likely be formally charged Monday with murder.
And it was just like, you know, it was terrible.
Say Watts confessed, and yesterday police found his victims on a parcel of land just outside their small town of Frederick in northern Colorado.
The body of Ms. Watts has been recovered. It was recovered basically in the south part of the county, out in a open space in a field. Efforts are still ongoing to recover the other 2 missing persons.
It was that's what I just.
He's not that monster that people are portraying him to be.
Sandy.
That's it. I can take that mic off you.
Watts says she believes her son's plea deal was coerced and he should withdraw his guilty plea.
I love my son no matter what. No matter what, and I want to fight for him, and I don't want him to go down for something that he didn't do.
Shanann's family released this statement saying in part, quote, he pled guilty to murdering his family because he is guilty. They went on to say the parents of Chris Watts gave an interview in which they attempted to defend their son. In doing so, they felt the need to make vicious, grotesque, and utterly false statements about Shanann. Their false statements, however hurtful and inaccurate, will never alter the truth about Shanann and will never alter the truth about the crimes committed by their son, Chris Watts. Shanann's memory and reputation deserves to be protected. High-profile defense attorney and legal expert Harvey Steinberg does not represent anyone in this case. He says Rule 32 allows the withdrawal of a plea prior to sentencing if there is a fair and just reason, but he does not believe a judge would allow that in this case.
Remember, the mother is not in a position to withdraw the plea. The mother can scream and yell and do everything she wants. Maybe it's appropriate, maybe it's not, but ultimately, it's his decision.
It's.
We begin tonight with the stunning explanation from the man accused of killing his pregnant wife and 2 children in Frederick. The question everyone has is why.
So tonight we have Chris Watts' version of what happened. The arrest affidavit was released today, the same day charges against Watts were filed. He put the blame on his wife, Shanann, claiming she's the one who killed the children. 7 a.m., he left for work and Shanann was in bed. Police interviewed Chris a second time and he stuck to his story. But the story changed after police say a 2-day investigation revealed Chris was actively involved in an affair with a coworker, which he denied in previous interviews. Chris had a new story for the third interview, and this one contained a bombshell. Chris says after he told Shanann about the separation, he walked downstairs for a moment, then returned to his bedroom. Through the baby monitor, he observed one of the children, Bella, sprawled out on her bed in blue. Chris also claims he saw Shanann actively strangling the other daughter, Celeste. Chris said he went into a rage and ultimately strangled Shanann.
Something new coming out every day. It's hard having a little one and being a mother, and I could never even imagine, the pain and everything that the family is going through.
Ramsetter can't speak for everyone who has taken the time to light a candle or leave a handwritten note, but she says for her family, thanks isn't needed, just more love.
You got to choose love. I think that's the big piece of it. You got to just choose love in this situation.
Court records are revealing crucial details into the murder investigation of pregnant mom Shanann Watts and her 2 daughters. Just before 5:30 in the morning, a neighbor's surveillance camera captures Chris loading something into the back of his truck. Chris said,
to be completely honest with you, my wife and I were kind of wondering when she was on vacation if something happened, because I've heard them full out screaming at each other at the top of their lungs, and he gets crazy.
Does he? And that's pretty recently?
Yeah. I'm guessing that's why she went and visited people, is because she wanted to get away from the situation.
You spend less time with each other, and sometimes you have no time to maintain the relationship.
I don't want everyone to look at this case and think, oh my gosh, they argued all the time. That's not what we're focused on. I want to focus on Shanann and the girls and what a great life they had. Instead of, oh my gosh, they fought all the time, he was so mean to her. At the time, I embellished a little bit as far as they fought constantly, and I didn't want that to come out that way.
As he drove the 3 bodies to an oil work site where he buried Shanann and dumped his daughter's bodies into oil tanks. Later that morning, the friend who drove Shanann home from the airport drives back because Shanann isn't answering her phone and was a no-show at her doctor's appointment. That friend, named Nicole, discovers no one is home, so she calls police. An officer is sent to the home just before 2 p.m. Police then contact Chris Watts, trying to get into the house. Chris meets police minutes later, allowing them inside, and starts with his original story, claiming he had no idea as to where his wife and daughters could be. And even with that timeline of events, a court charging document indicates that the girls may have been killed one day before their mom was killed. Christopher Watts is scheduled to be in court tomorrow morning.
In Frederick. And Dylan, that memorial to the victims just keeps growing.
Jim, as you can see, the memorial has now grown up to the side of the driveway and along the front of the house. But for many, their eyes are now turning away from the family home and towards Greeley, where Christopher Watts is being held on suspicion of murdering his family and other charges. Today, in his second court appearance, it was Shanann's brother and father's first opportunity to lay eyes on the man who's accused of killing their loved ones. Chris Watts sat handcuffed and shackled in a Weld County courtroom Tuesday morning. Shanann's brother stared at him, but Chris never appeared to look back. Watts quietly responded, "Yes, sir," when asked if he understood his charges. 9 felonies, including 3 counts of first-degree murder. 1 for Shanann, 1 for Celeste, and 1 for Bella, his entire family. As the judge named each one, Shanann's father sat just feet away from the man accused of killing his pregnant daughter and grandchildren. He cried,
"With my little munchkins."
It's a story that has broke the hearts of family, friends, and thousands across the nation.
Heart-wrenching.
Outside the family home where the murders allegedly took place, complete strangers expressed their condolences, many shedding a tear. Stacy Hansen drove from Cheyenne.
To show respect for Wyoming and for the mother and the children that didn't deserve this.
Recently described as a happy couple, many want to know what went so wrong the morning of August 13th and why.
Deterioration. The relationship begins to fall apart, crumble, or fail. You have weakening bonds. You get bored of the everyday routine, and you get distractions such as work, hobbies, relationships, no matter how harmless, even at the job. You might meet a new person and it could could strengthen into something else, and could weaken the bond you have with the partner you have.
Now, one major piece of evidence actually comes from the neighbor's house next to the Watts family home. According to court documents, their security camera actually has an obstructed view of this driveway, which shows Chris Watts backing his truck into the garage shortly after Shannon Watts came home August 13th. While Chris told police that Shannon was actually the one who killed the kids, he's still facing charges for their murders as well. If convicted, he could face either the death penalty or life in prison.
Chris Watts in court.
I have denied your right to bail.
His father-in-law, Frank Rusek, weeping as the judge read the 9 felony counts against the man accused of murdering his daughter Shanann and his granddaughters, 3-year-old Celeste and 4-year-old Bella. Court documents now revealing Chris says he told his wife Shanann he wanted a separation. Later he says he saw Bella sprawled out on her bed and blue and Shanann actively strangling Celeste. Chris says that caused him to go into a rage and ultimately strangle Shanann to death.
I know that Shanann would never hurt her girls. Never. Her girls were her world.
Nicole Atkinson, the last person to see Shanann alive, says Chris's version of events is impossible, saying Shanann confided in her that Chris recently became standoffish.
He wasn't being the loving Chris that he normally was. He wasn't touching or hugging or doing stuff like that.
You disclose less of your feelings, and you show less affection toward each other.
Court documents also say Watts was actively involved in an affair.
You have 2 types of deterioration. You have sudden and you have gradual. Sudden would be an example of infidelity. When somebody is not faithful to their partner, the partners realize that the relationship cannot be sustained.
Shanann, who was 15 weeks pregnant with a son, Nico, was found in a shallow grave, their 2 daughters submerged in oil. Watts did not enter a plea. In addition to the murder charges, he also faces an unlawful termination of pregnancy charge.
Hey Bella, how many babies do I have in my belly?
5.
Whoa.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
That's a lot of babies.
Is it a necessity for me to stay in this relationship? According to my research, sometimes a necessity could be children. Sometimes when you have children and your relationship starts to deteriorate, a child could help repair it.
David, Christopher Watts says he was having an affair with a co-worker, and he admits he killed his wife, but says he did not kill his girls.
I have 2 beautiful girls that I'm truly blessed with every day.
After initially denying involvement in his family's disappearance, Christopher Watts allegedly told investigators his pregnant wife Shanann killed their 2 daughters, 4-year-old Bella and 3-year-old Celeste. According to a newly unsealed arrest affidavit, Watts claims that moments after he told her he wanted a separation, he observed her on a baby monitor actively strangling their younger daughter, while their older daughter was sprawled out on her bed and blue. He claims he then went into a rage and ultimately strangled Shanann to death.
We're also learning Watts' lawyer asked a judge for DNA swabs to be taken from the girls' necks, as well as samples from the hands and nails of the mother. This all happening the same day hundreds gathered outside the family's home for an emotional candlelight vigil.
Heart-wrenching. It's not real. It's too close to home. It's painful. We all have kids.
A heartbroken father breaking down in tears as a judge reads charges against his son-in-law, accused of murdering his pregnant wife and 2 daughters. Those charges indicate Christopher Watts may have killed his kids before his wife, Shanann, came home from a trip.
Yeah, Jeremy Narrow, just a few days ago, you couldn't even walk in front of this house. There were so many teddy bears, mementos, candles, and cards. The sidewalk was just full of them. Now, they're all gone, and they will have a whole new purpose.
They say that time heals the brokenhearted. Forgetting pain, that's another story. Told by this mountain of teddy bears, a memorial that just keeps growing and growing.
I just wanted to stop and get flowers, and I picked my daughter up from school and said, you know, I just want to go put flowers and just show our respect. I just want to go by there just to show our respect, that's all.
Memorials to Shanann Watts and her 2 daughters say the outpouring of love had to be saved. Too beautiful to let go. Now, the smaller teddy bears will be donated to police departments to give to children in crisis. The larger ones will be turned into blankets, a true act of kindness from a community hit hard.
Awesome to see how many people has come out here to support everything.
They're the haunting final photos of an American family's last vacation. There's mom Shanann Watts proudly snapping a photo of her 4-year-old daughter Bella, who's bouncing on a trampoline.
She was super with her girls. She interacted with her girls the whole time. She was smiling. She was taking pictures.
Michelle Greer met the Watts family while they were all standing in line for the trampolines at a tourist attraction in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. They got to talking.
The thing that stands out is the amount of love that she had for her daughters.
We're gonna go spend time with our families.
Shanann, Bella, and 3-year-old Celeste were in the Carolinas where Shanann's family lived. That's her dad in the photo. And there's Chris Watts, barely visible behind Shanann. It looks as if he's checking his phone. Michelle says he seemed indifferent to the fun his wife and kids were having.
He was just standing there.
The date, August 2nd. 2 weeks later came the shocking news.
The husband of a missing pregnant woman is under arrest.
Michelle couldn't believe Shanann and the little girl she encountered that day in Myrtle Beach were murdered, allegedly by Chris Watts. Michelle went back to look at her photos. That's when she noticed the Watts family in the background. A comment made by Shanann is especially poignant today.
She told me she was expecting and she was really hoping that it was a boy. She kept touching her stomach. She was very excited that she was pregnant.
North Carolina, funeral arrangements were announced for 34-year-old Shanann Watts, 4-year-old Bella, and 3-year-old Celeste. The service is set for Saturday at Sacred Heart Roman Catholic Church in Pinehurst. Watts lived in North Carolina before moving to Colorado.
Shanann Watts grew up just outside of Pinehurst in Aberdeen, North Carolina. We know she had recently visited family and friends still living here in North Carolina just weeks before her death.
A mother and 2 young daughters laid to rest in North Carolina. Shanann Watts grew up with strong ties to the Tar Heel State, attending Pinecrest High School in Southern Pines and marrying her husband Chris in Charlotte in 2012. The Watts family even visited the Carolinas this summer, taking their 2 girls on a trip to Myrtle Beach. A woman Shanann spoke with in line at the bungee trampoline took these photos, showing Shanann and her girls with what appears to be her father beside her and Chris off to the side. Less than 2 weeks later,
if you want your relationship to keep going, I would suggest maybe go to a place where you first met, or go bungee jumping, go somewhere that will bring the excitement back.
the unthinkable happened.
I was heartbroken because I literally had just spoken with her 2 weeks ago. It wasn't just somebody I was reading about on the news. It was somebody I had engaged in a conversation with. I had seen her children. So it did hit hard.
Chris appeared in court last Tuesday to hear his charges, now facing 5 counts of first-degree murder in the deaths of Shanann, Celeste, and Bella. If convicted of the first-degree murder charges, Watts faces a minimum sentence of life in prison without parole. Prosecutors haven't decided if they'll seek the death penalty.
Family members ask that in lieu of flowers, people honor the memory of Shanann Watts and her 2 daughters with a donation to some of their favorite charities.
Gradual would be if you met somebody at work or a new friendship has occurred, and you, as it goes on, you see that, okay, maybe this relationship has more potential than the relationship I have with my partner. And that would gradually push the old relationship out and push the new relationship in. When you feel you are putting more into the relationship than you are getting out. According to Bloomstein and Schwartz, when a relationship breaks up, it's generally the more attractive one that leaves, which I agree with somewhat and then I disagree with. My name is Chris Watts. I'm doing my communication speech for Brenda Armentrout, and welcome to Broomfield, Colorado. About 70 degrees, and it's awesome outside, so welcome. I'm doing my speech on relationship deterioration and repair, and this is my PowerPoint to help me. Deterioration. The relationship begins to fall apart, crumble, or fail. You have weakening bonds. You get bored of the everyday routine, and you get distractions such as work, hobbies, relationships, no matter how harmless, even at the job. You might meet a new person, and it could strengthen into something else, and could weaken the bond you have with the partner you have. You spend less time with each other, and sometimes you have no time to maintain the relationship. Sometimes in a relationship, you maybe make promises that can turn into a major betrayal, or minor arguments that could turn into things where you could say spiteful comments, which turn into bigger problems. The first phase of deterioration is interpersonal dissatisfaction, which when you become unhappy with all the everyday interactions with you and your partner. You also begin to view your future with your partner as a negative future. And the second phase is interpersonal deterioration, which you start to grow farther and farther apart. You share less of your free time with each other. You have more awkward silences at dinner, or when you're just out by yourself, you don't talk at all. You disclose less of your feelings, and you show less affection toward each other. When you have good communication, you show more nonverbal communication, which is the majority of the messages we send, like through gestures, facial expressions, eye contact, the tone of your voice. And there's many types of forms of communication these days, and it's the most successful groundwork for relationships. A few quotes that I've done research on from Elaine Schemberg. All relationships problems stem from poor communication skills, which is very true. And another quote from Schemberg and Sorjan: you can't communicate while you're checking your BlackBerry, watching TV, or flipping through sports section, which is very true. With technology nowadays, you'll be on your iPhone, your BlackBerry, at a restaurant, and you'll see two people at a table, and you'll see both of them on their phones, either Facebook comment status, or maybe playing a game. And there's no communication at all. Commitment is the degree of commitment affects your relationship. According to Hirofumi, not surprisingly, commitment is especially strong when individuals are satisfied with their relationship, and grows weaker as individuals become less satisfied. You have to ask yourself 3 questions when you're in a relationship. Do I have a desire to keep this relationship going? Do I have a moral obligation to stay in this relationship? Or is it a necessity for me to stay in this relationship? According to my research, sometimes a necessity could be children. Sometimes when you have children and your relationship starts to deteriorate, a child could help repair it. All relationships are held together in part by a form of commitment, either based on desire, obligation, or necessity. And when the commitment is strong enough to hold the relationship together, you avoid arguing about minor disagreements, and you support one another. When commitment is weak, the relationship is full of doubt, and the relationship deteriorates faster. You have 2 types of deterioration. You have sudden and you have gradual. Sudden would be an example of infidelity. When somebody is not faithful to their partner, the partners realize that the relationship cannot be sustained. Gradual would be if you met somebody at work or a new friendship has occurred, and as it goes on, you see that, okay, maybe this relationship has more potential than the relationship I have with my partner. And that would gradually push the old relationship out and push the new relationship in. Reasons relationships start to fall apart. Sometimes you no longer find your partner attractive, physically or in their personality. When you're in a relationship, you have to show desire, lust towards your partner. Sometimes when you get married, that the lust and the desire kind of falls by the wayside a little bit. But if you want your relationship to keep going, I would suggest maybe go to a place where you first met, or go bungee jumping, go somewhere that will bring the excitement back. You no longer experience closeness, or when your differences become more important than the similarities, you just pick apart your partner, and you don't see anything that you have in common anymore. You just see something he or she does, and it just gets on your nerves, and you just can't let that go. And you feel you might do better with someone else that you've met. You think that you can no longer that your partner is someone that you can't be with. When you feel you are putting more into the relationship than you are getting out. According to Bloomstein and Schwartz, when a relationship breaks up, it's generally the more attractive one that leaves, which I agree with somewhat and then I disagree with. When in repair, the stage is not always pursued. Sometimes people, when the relationship starts to dissolve, repair is not an option and they want to get away and start new. When you want to go into repair, you need to analyze what went wrong and consider what ways of solving the problems. You need to consider changing your behavior or perhaps changing your expectations for your partner. And you might also want to evaluate how you could feel in the relationship if it had ended. One of the first stages of repair you need to recognize, identify the problem, what changes you need to make the relationship better. Avoid words like always and never. If you say this to your partner, it just makes the relationship makes it backtrack. You'll never get to the repair stage. You need to take responsibility for your feelings and not blame your partner. And you need to be descriptive when discussing grievances. Resolution and conflict resolution. You need to look closely for relational messages that will help clarify motivations and needs. Exchange perspectives and see the situation as your partner does. You need to own your own feelings and thoughts. Use active listening techniques. Listen to your partner. Make sure they feel wanted. Make sure that they know that you're there and not in space somewhere thinking about the baseball game that's coming up or the football game that's coming up, which I sometimes do. Think clearly before saying things you may later forget. Don't just blurt out something. Just think about it. Don't just, if something comes to your mind, then it might be wrong. I do that too. And keep channels of communication open. Always disclose your feelings. Don't keep things bottled up because it will later come back to bite you. Possible solutions. Discuss solutions that both you and your partner win. Don't have a win-lose solution. The win-lose solution, sometimes when somebody loses, you'll have hostility and you'll have resentment. Sometimes they may not show it, but they will be thinking it. Need to affirm each other. Support each other, positive evaluations, positive feelings. Always disclose your feelings, as I said. And cherish the gestures. It's a smile, a wink, a kiss, maybe just a hug, anything at all. Solutions into normal behavior. Say you're sorry. Sometimes it takes a lot to admit that just to say you're sorry, but it helps. Risk rejection by making the first move. Be willing to change, to adapt, to take a new task and responsibility. And in conclusion, I'd like to say that relationships are hard, but they're worth it in the end. And as the Swedish proverb says, a double joy is a shared joy, and a double sorrow is not a shared sorrow. Thank you.